So today we're going to be creating a testimonial section. A testimonial section is one of the most important sections of any SaaS website. It is a way of conveying trust, and it is a way of telling people that our users already enjoy using our app or product. So before we start though, I just want to say, if you are looking to get the design for today, I'm going to be hosting that design file on WebShare. I'm going to leave a link down below in the description where you can just go and get it from there. It's completely free. You can just go and grab it and practice with it. Do whatever you want, pretty much. So, yeah, let's start today's lesson here on the testimonial section. Now, before we start designing the actual testimonials, we need a header for our section. That is very common. That's something we do every time we are creating a website design. Any section needs a header. So if you just put the testimonials in front of the user, there's a good chance that the user won't really understand that what you are showing is the actual testimonials. It might look like something else. So you need to convey a header. We're also going to be creating a desktop layout here. We're not going to be focusing on the mobile design today. But if you want, the mobile design is also included in the design file, so you can go and check it out for yourself. So let's just rename this landing desktop, or is it desktop because it is the view size desktop, and landing because most of the time testimonial sections are found on the landing page of your website. So let's start from the header. A header needs three things: headline, subheadline, and a button. The button might be a call to action. That button might be something to take the user to take the user to another part of the website, or anything. So we're just going to be starting by creating the header here, the headline. So our headline says what our users say. Now this is not a headline because it's very small. What we want to do is we want to take this, make it a bit bigger. Like we also want to make it semi-bold so that it has a greater visual hierarchy than the other elements besides it. So just semi-bold, and this is our headline. Now we need a subheadline. For the subheadline, I'm just going to write out some text, but I'm just going to copy some text here. Here I'm going to copy some text, and it appears to be in white for some reason. So this is the text, right? So by the way, we are using Inter, and I use semi-bold for this, 40 pixel size. Everything else is on the default. And here for this one though, I'm going to use Inter regular, followed by 14 pixels, because this will be 14 pixels will be the size of our body text. Now I don't want this to be too long. I don't want it to be longer than the headline. So I'm just going to drag it in a bit here. Around here would be good. Then I want to center line it. So this will be center lined. And I don't want this to fight for visual hierarchy against the headline. So I'm going to decide to go with a lighter color. So we're going to be using 43. That is a gray color. If you just type 43, you would get it. And it is actually 43, 43, 43. That's the hex code for the color. So if you want to be following along with this tutorial, this is the hex code. This is obviously black, and the background is completely white. 000 FFF. Okay, following that, we need a call to action, as we said. I'm just going to call the call to action get started. It's going to be semi-bold because I wanted to have a bit more of a visual hierarchy in relation to the body text, because this call to action is literally the thing we want the user to click. This is the thing that the whole website is working towards, making the user click, making the user want to buy the product. So here, instead of 40, I'm going to go 16 pixels here. A bit smaller, but I'm going to put it in a frame. I'm going to call this frame the CTA, or call to action. There won't be any gaps because it's going to be the only element here. 32 padding on the sides and 16 padding on the top and bottom. Now, the reason I chose these numbers is not random. Every number except the 14 should be a multiple of 4. So here, this is 40, a multiple of 4. This is the only exception so far, and these two also are multiples of 4. 16 pixels are multiple of 4. This is because multiples of 4 most of the time tend to be divided by lots of numbers. So in design, there's a lots of multiples of 6 and 8. So you can just condense that into multiples of 4. So it's just a good thing to have, just not to choose random numbers, rather use multiples of 4 as much as possible. Now, in regards to the padding and on top and bottom or and on left and right, for call to actions for buttons, you most of the time want the inline padding, which is the left and right, to be greater than the block padding, which is the top and bottom. So this means here I'm giving this double the block padding here for the inline padding. So that's something you want to keep in mind here. Next up, we want this call to action to have a bit more of a visual hierarchy, of a visual advantage instead of just showing everything with the same color. So I'm just going to go and give it a fill. I'm going to give this 77FFB2 for those of you who are following along. This is like a cyan color, like a green blue mixture. So here for the corner radius, I'm going to go with 8 pixels. As you can see here, 8 pixel corner radius is now it is complete. So something to note here. Some people ask me this. You see, this does not contrast well with the background. The cyan color here has low contrast behind the white color, in front of the white color actually. And that's okay because this is just to give a bit more visual hierarchy. The thing I want to make sure of is that this text, the black one, is with enough visual contrast here. So it definitely is. So that's what you want to make sure of. Sometimes there isn't any problem of making a non-contrasting background if it just makes this design feel more interesting and gives this part a bit more visual hierarchy. So this is all about the header. Now you just group them. This is going to be the headline and sub-headline. I'm just going to call it headline. And together with this, it's going to be the header. Obviously, we want to name all our layers. And I'm going to go 32 gap and 16 gap. Here, notice how I'm giving this 16 and multiplying that by 2 and 32. The reason I'm doing this, obviously, is because we want to group elements based on connectivity. So the headline and subheadline is more connected to each other than they are connected with the button. So I'm giving them more connection by reducing the size of space between them and by increasing the size of space between these two elements. Great, so that would be the headline. I'm just going to censor it here and continue with the testimonial section. So here's what we are waiting for. Now for the testimonial section, I'm thinking to have over 4 or 5 elements. Let's start. The first element, which is very important, is crucial, is the actual name of the person giving the testimony. You want there to be a trust between the user and the website, right? So if you just don't provide any name for the user that is having the testimonials written, that means how could the user trust you? You might as well have wrote it yourself. So you want to give a name. So for example, for this testimony, obviously this is a fake website, so we're going to be making them up. We're going to call this James Andrew, for example. Just a random name. You can say John Doe, but I prefer to use realistic text. Okay, so realistic text, I do that because I want to mimic something that the real website could have. That's better for you to do even when practicing. So I really encourage you to do that. I'm going to make this a bit bigger, around 24 pixels, because this is crucial. We want there to be trust between the user and the website here. So we are doing that. And now just saying James Andrew doesn't really validate this testimony, but we want to show why you need to trust this person. And in this case, I'm just going to call him software engineer at some company, let's say at Spotify. Okay, so obviously, if someone with this sort of resume is writing this testimony, that means probably you can trust the testimony and the website or the product. So I'm just gonna make this 14 pixels regular, and I'm just going to give this the gray color we used for the text here, because I don't want it to fight for visual hierarchy against the headline here, the title or the name of the user. Now following that, we just want to group these two. This is going to be the person identification. You can say identification. Uh, Following that, let's just give it around 12 pixel gap, and let's continue with the testimony. So I'm just gonna write out a testimony here. I could actually just copy it if into here. Again, it's white for some reason, but I just want to make it black here. And now this is some sort of a high visual hierarchy element, so we're not gonna give it gray because this is the primary idea of the section, right? To provide this testimony. So as long as that's the idea, I want to keep it like that. So let me just drag it in. I don't want it to be too long. You don't want text to be too long like this because it's hard for the user to read it. The user's neck should turn from right to left if you have it filled. So you want to constrain your text so that the user don't have to really move his neck a lot or stuff like that. So just keep that in mind here, and yeah, okay, this will be our text. It's going to be 14 pixels again, as we have been doing so far, since it's our body text, regular and enter. Now, only two elements remain. I want to have a rating and I want to have some sort of image, right? So I could have an image block like this. By the way, let's just group these two first and let's give them auto spacing. This is going to be the content and this is going to be the image. Now the image, I'm not going to use this color, obviously. I'm going to be using an actual image. And for the actual image, I'm going to go to plugins and go to Unsplash. So Unsplash is a plugin to get images in Figma. You might know the actual website, Unsplash, because it's a very popular website. So we're going to be using the plugin here. I'm just going to search for a person here. And we have so many images. I'm going to choose a male because we already named it James Andrew. And I think that we can use this image right here for now. Okay. Now, since we have it, what I'm thinking here is there are colors here, right? There is like a skin color, the dark green color, the brown beards, and I'm thinking to make this website monochromatic. Monochromatic basically means there's only one color featured in it. Obviously, black and white are not colors; they are actually shades, so that's okay. So here we're gonna be taking this image and taking the saturation and making it 0. Okay. By making it 0, now we can say that we are having a monochromatic design because there is no extra colors here. Okay, let's follow that by just taking these two, grouping them, and let's call this testimony, right? So this is one of the testimonies. So testimony. Follow that by providing 24 pixel gap, and I want to give this around 236, maybe 236 height around this, around 236 or 269. Just make it a bit taller. That looks good. That looks good. So we can just make it a bit bigger here. Okay, around here. So now after doing this, we can just go ahead and change out the layouts. So here I want this to fill the container on its height, meaning the auto spacing now will be working well. Following that, I want to give this a vertical padding of 16 and 16 here as well. So getting it off the bottom and off the top, because we don't want our element to be stuck into the top or bottom to of the container. Like we are gonna have some sort of stroke here. The stroke color would actually be a lighter color or lighter gray. It's going to be CE actually, CE. So if we don't have any padding here, what will happen is the border will collide here, and this is bad UX because you want your elements to have enough space. So we're just giving it 16 pixel uh, padding on the top and bottom, and also you can see on the right side there isn't enough space. Obviously, since the gap exists here, there is enough space on the left, but not on the right. So we're gonna go here on the right here and just give it some 16 pixel padding. This will just push the content inwards, which is completely fine now. Now, obviously, you can see here that we are already using a rounded corner. So even though this is completely fine, just to stay consistent, I will use some rounded corners here as well. So 8 pixel rounded corners here. Now you can see that this is not getting rounded because it's overflowing. You can just go here and click the clip content, meaning everything will be clipped and everything will be rounded. Great. So now we have the image. I want to add one more thing, which will be the actual rating that the user gave the app. So most of the time you want to show the rating as 10 out of 10, obviously. So I'm gonna make this a bit bigger, around 40 pixels. Maybe 40 is a bit too small. So I would consider making it a bit bigger as well, 72. Now, this might seem too big, but it's not because we're not going to be using Inter. We're actually going to be using a font called, I installed this font, it's called Voyage. It is a free font if you want it. Now, there are so many fonts even accessible right here on Figma, like Instrument Serif or Playfair Display that you can use. I just installed this font, so I think it's quite nice to use. So I'm just going to use it, but if you don't want to install that font, you can just use other fonts, any font you want actually. Now, here I want to make this positioned ignoring auto layout. I want to place it here where half of it is on the image and half of it is on the website, on the content. So here I'm going to center it and place it here, and this will be our pretty much our rating for the testimony. Now everything is almost done, but I just want to make this a bit more interesting. How are we going to do that? I'm going to select this image and I'm going to add a fill to it. And I'm going to make this fill 100%. Now this means it will cover the actual content, but that's not the case. So we don't want it to cover the image. We're just going to make it our brand color and make it into gradient. Now instead of this linear gradient, I'm going to make it a radial gradient. And I'm going to flip it so that the center is actually the color and where it fades out of the center. So now I'm just going to take this and I'm going to place it like this, take it down, and I'm going to take it and make it bigger. Again, I'm going to take it down here, just below, and I'm going to make it expand a bit. Okay, great. So now this is our image. Here you're just going to see some glow here, which is a cool effect. It's not something that will affect the visuals or the visual hierarchy too much, but it's just something to add more interest to the website. This is what we call an accent. An accent is elements that you are adding to the website in order to make an otherwise just solid layout or solid just design better and make it great. So now we have one testimony. We want to go and add some layout grids. I want to go to columns and 12 pixels. Let me take out my rulers because I don't really like working with grids. I prefer working with rulers. So I'm just going to take out my rulers and just place them right here. And we can now turn off the rulers. So this is the website's boundaries. So you're going to take one testimony here and just place it here. I'm going to duplicate it 2 times until it overflows. Now you're seeing that it overflows, and that's completely fine because this is actually not the testimony. This is just part of it, so not the whole testimony section. this is part of it. That means this is a carousel, and other sections, other testimonials will be sliding from the right side to the left, and this will have some effect like this where it overflows and other testimonies come from here and it just keeps going. That is what we call a carousel. So we're going to be having that. Obviously, we're not going to be animating that for now, but we're just going to have that in mind. So I'm just going to group everything here. This is going to be one row, and I'm going to have 24 pixels in between them. Okay, now since we have it here, let's just make sure that it's aligned to the left side of the ruler, which is perfect. Now we just want to duplicate this and bring it down here. Now this time I want it to be aligned like this. I want it to be here. Okay. Now what this means basically is that one part of the testimonies will be scrolling from from right to left, and the other would be from left to right. So that will just create some interesting effect here. Now one thing left here is to rotate the image and content sides here. The reason we're doing this is because we don't want the content to be the one showing when overflowing. Instead, we want the image to be shown on overflow. This will just create some good visuals instead. Obviously, you don't have to do this. This is just a preference of mine. I'm just gonna just rotate everything here. But it creates a cool layout where not only the side of animation is changed, but also the type of layout is changed on the bottom, so it doesn't feel all consistent, all the same actually. It feels a bit different and a bit unique and just makes it more interesting. Now here you can see some issues here where there's more space here and there's no space here. That's because we have to change the side of padding here to be on the left side instead of the right side because we have already shifted it. We can do the same pretty much here, 0 by 16. And let's just copy this actually. And we can just place it here as well. Okay, so this, if we remove the rulers, this is almost done. This is the layout we want. We can just group these two. Now you can see when we group them, there happens to be some issue here where it returns to the, let's call this testimonies before. Testimonials. So when we group them, it becomes obviously auto layout. That means it can't overflow and it can't have the layout we wanted to have previously. So how do we go over that? That's very simple. We just want to drag this. First, let's align to the left. Okay, maybe to the right here. We just want it to, okay, left. Okay, right actually. So here we want it to be positioned like this, where we want this to start here. So when we make it longer, it becomes overflowing and it is not letting me do that for now. So let me just, yeah. Okay. Now we want to take this and position it right here. But here we want to take this and position it so that this is basically this ends here. Now we want to do the same on this side, but we want to make it overflow at that side here. So we change the alignment to be on the right instead of the left. So now we can drag it in this way and it would overflow towards the left. So now we have this layout where it is overflowing, but you have to make sure that your boundaries where when the top starts, it is starting from the left boundary and when the bottom one ends, it is ending at the right boundary. So now we want to just have consistent gaps because we want the gap to be 24 here and 24 here as well. We want our spacings to be consistent. Now, following that, we're almost done. We just have to take this and group it. Actually, it's not before you want to have. Okay, we want to have this actually filling out container, just being constrained here, and we want the actual content to be the one overflowing. So here, something like this. Something like this. It's overflowing a bit. Okay, we can just use fine adjustments here. Let's reduce the width, making sure it is just right. Okay. Obviously, you will hand this out to an animator or a motion designer, or you might do it yourself in After Effects or something like that, where a carousel will play out. But for now, we'll just mock up the actual design. Now let's group the header here with the header. That's going to be the testimonials. I'm going to change this to main, since this is the main content of the testimonial section. And I'm going to use around 64 pixel gap. Notice how I'm using the correct numbers here. 32 gap between, like it was 16 times 2, 32 times 2, 64. So that means we have a clear path of connectivity between the elements. The most connected elements have the least spacing between them. So we can just have a bit more of content here on the bottom. We can just say over 20 million active users to date on WebShare. Okay, let me just on WebShare. Care to join? Okay, then we want to change this back to enter and 14, which is the body text. I don't want it to be this long. I wanted to drag this here just a bit. Okay, then let's center it. We can actually use the same style here, 296 width and 14 pixels, and we don't want to be taking too much of the space, so we're just going to give it the gray color. Now let's drag it in here inwards, and it would have 64 pixels, and everything here is completely fine. Now if we just center it both on the top and on the sides and on the top and bottom, here we would have the proper constraint. And this is it for our testimonial section. Now, only one thing remains before we finish off the video. That is, we are having the same image all throughout, and that won't really make it realistic. So just to see how an actual testimonials would appear in the final website, I'm just going to change some of the images here and see how it works. When you change the images, you would have a better understanding of how your layout works with different sort of contents. So by just using one image, you won't have the proper perspective to understand how the thing you designed will actually look in a production ready application. So it's always good. Like, I'm just trying to save time, so I'm not going to change the text and testimonials. But in reality, if I'm designing a real client's website, I'll probably do that. So let's just take this, group it down. Let's remove our rulers, and this is our testimonial section. So it's not really something very complicated. Obviously, we discussed some elements like visual accents, carousels, and monochromatic designs. But it is something very much not too much complicated. It has a good balance of simple, clean layout and interesting visuals. So thank you very much again for watching. That's all for today. Again, as I said before, if you want to have access to the web design here, you can just go ahead and take that from web share. I'm just gonna have it here. If you can see, I already have posted it here, so you can just click and take this, or I'm gonna leave the actual link to this uh, page, to this template. Obviously, you can see the responsiveness here as well. I'll be leaving that in the description down below, so you can just go ahead and grab it from there and practice with it, use it in your projects, do whatever you want. Again, thank you for watching, and until next time, goodbye.